What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Heading outside today. Gonna answer some questions from Instagram stories. These are all gonna be about exercise technique. 4 questions I'm gonna tackle here. If you like this format, drop down to the comments and let me know, and we'll do this some more. And if you have a question, I'm gonna put a question box up in Instagram stories. Make sure you hit that up and ask me your question. All right, question number 1. This question came from Natalie. What is the difference between a Romanian deadlift and a deadlift? Really, really good question. It's one that I had when I first started lifting. I would watch people do both of those exercises and think, you're calling it 2 different things, doing totally the same exercise. It's like that episode of The Office, you know, where Pam gives Creed that picture. It's the same picture.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture.
That's how I felt about this exercise. I promise you there are differences, and I'm gonna show them to you. Come on. 100 episodes of the Fitness Simplified podcast. All foods can fit in a weight loss diet. There don't need to be any banned foods. 3 ways you can lose weight this weekend. You've gotta start lifting heavy. The last 2 reps of each set should be hard. So I'm gonna show you just a couple of differences between a Romanian deadlift and a deadlift. I'll be doing a conventional deadlift. Same thing applies to a sumo deadlift though. So one difference is the starting position. The starting position for a deadlift is here. That's the starting position. The starting position for a Romanian deadlift is here at the top. Now you might be wondering, well, how the heck am I gonna get into that position? Couple of possibilities. One, you could walk right up to the rack, have the bar in the rack, you step up to it, you step back, and you're good to start. The other option is you actually start your Romanian deadlift by deadlifting it up to the starting position. So that's one difference. Another difference is the motion that you're going to perform. In a Romanian deadlift, your knees are soft, but the rest of the exercise is all in your hips. You think about pushing your butt back as far as it can go. Notice I'm not bending and straightening my knees. They're soft, but there's not a lot of up and down motion. It's all forward and back. Push my butt back as far as it can go, and I stand up at the top. That's a Romanian deadlift. It's a hip hinge holding a weight. That's a Romanian deadlift. Now look at the difference with a deadlift. Particularly pay attention to my knee angle. So here's the start of the deadlift. Look at that big bend in my knee. From here I stand up at the top. That looks like the start of a Romanian deadlift, right? And then when you reverse this and you're heading back in your deadlift, it does start with that hip hinge, but then after the weight passes your knees, you bend them to get down to the bottom. Up. Now watch. Bend it to get to the bottom. That is a deadlift. Our next question is from Lisa. It's another deadlifting question. My back is sour from deadlifts. I probably did them wrong. Since you're mentioning the word sour, I'm gonna say yes, it was probably something that you did wrong with your form. I will say, I hear a lot from both clients and from just the general public about deadlifts, that people feel their back when they're deadlifting, or that the next day they're sore when they deadlift. This isn't a problem. In fact, you should be feeling something there. You're using your back. In fact, you're using your entire backside. You're using your calves, you're using your hamstrings, your glutes, your erectors, your upper back, you're using your biceps and your forearms and your hands for your grip. All of that is involved in deadlifting. So if you notice your back, if you are sore in your back the day after, totally fine. We don't want pain, however. So let's talk through a few things it could be to fix, what things we need to fix to make sure you're not having pain. And one of the main things is gonna be is, what are you doing with your posture, with your back? What we don't want to see, we don't want to see rounded like an angry cat here in your lower back. That's not good. We also don't want to see this overarching, and this is kind of a natural position. I'm being a little exaggerated here. It's kind of a natural position people stand around in all the time. We don't want to deadlift in this position. We want a nice stacked position. So your shoulders should be over your ribs, and then your ribs should not be flared like mine are now. They should be down, ribs down over your hips. So we have this nice neutral spine. We have, and your head is in alignment too. We're not up like this. So we've got your head nice and neutral. We've got your shoulders over your ribs that are down, over your hips. And we keep that nice neutral spine, as we deadlift. Note, neutral does not mean perfectly straight. Your spine has curves in it, and we want you to keep those natural curves. That's number one. A second thing that people do that can cause pain with deadlifting in your back. When you deadlift, what we want to see at the top is just you standing up nice and straight and tall, head pointing up to the ceiling, nice and straight and tall. What we don't want to see, we don't want to see you coming past this point and you keep going to here. See how my head's kind of pointing back towards the corner? If I was in a room, it'd be pointing to the corner of the wall. And this hips push forward variety. We don't want to see that, and we see that a lot. So watch again. Here's what we want. Stop nice and straight and tall. Here's what we don't want. You keep on going back. When you're doing that, you're finishing with your back instead of with your glutes, and that's why you're having some back pain. And then here's the last thing I'm going to show you that could be causing your back pain. When you set up to deadlift, if you're not deadlifting a 45-pound plate on either side yet, you might be using smaller plates. There's nothing wrong with that. We just have to get you set up in the proper position with those plates. Because if you try and deadlift this from the floor here, what's gonna happen? You're not in an optimal position. You're actually gonna have to come down too low, and that rounding in your back can happen. So what's the solution here? There's a couple of possibilities. Number one, you could use something like this. So you can see this is the same diameter as a 45-pound plate. It's only 10 pounds. These are called bumper plates, come in all different weights. You can see the difference, how tall this one is versus this one, and how high up this gets the bar on your body. You can see this only gets the bar just to my ankle height. Okay, so you could get these. I got these from Amazon. Then you're gonna have the bar set up at the appropriate height, but with a weight you can lift. If that's not an option, you can, alternatively, stack this weight on plates. It's gonna need to be thicker than my thin bumper plate here. You want it up so that it's still hitting you here across your shins up higher. That's a possibility, is you stack it up on plates to get it at the same height it would be at if you were using 45-pound plates. Another thing you can use to stack are 2 of these aerobic steps. So if you have aerobic steps, you could put the weight on one on each side, obviously not just on one side, I only have one here. You can stack them there. Again, you can see that's gonna get the bar to hit up higher in the appropriate spot. This setup is going to ensure that you're not hurting your lower back. Next question is from Caitlin. Caitlin says, I don't know how to make sure my back is in the right position for bent over rows. I have an easy solution for you. The correct starting position for a bent over row is actually the bottom position of a Romanian deadlift. So we go down like we're going to Romanian deadlift, turn the weights here, and that is where you're going to start your row from. Easy peasy. Our last question is from Carla. Carla says, squats, I only feel them in my knees while I'm aiming to target my glutes and quads. So there are a couple of reasons you could be having squat pain. I'm gonna show you 2 here. The first one is that your heels are coming up off the ground. So this is what a lot of people get confused. If you went to many like group fitness classes, especially, and even now probably they're still saying this, it's not true. Your knees can go over your toes. You hear that a lot, and you'll hear instructors say, don't let your knees go over your toes. Your knees go over your toes in life all the time. If watch next time you walk up and down steps, you're gonna see as you go up and down steps, your knees naturally go over your toes. That's not what can cause pain. When you're squatting, if your knee is going over your toe and your heel is up, you're gonna be putting some stress on the front part of your knee, and we don't want that. So what you need to do is make sure your heels stay planted on the floor at all times. Your heels should not be coming up. So as you're squatting down and up, heels stay down. Heels stay down, knees may or may not come up over your toes. That's number one, heels stay down. The second thing is to make sure that your knees are tracking out over your 3rd or 4th toe, not coming in like this. So when you're squatting, if your one or both knees are coming in, now I'm doing it very exaggerated, but we don't want your knees coming in this way. You need to actively press them out over your 3rd and 4th toes. For a lot of people, just knowing that, just thinking, okay, knees stay out this way, that is enough to help them to do that. Other people, wearing a band around your thighs over your knees and pressing out against it actively gives enough feedback to remind you to do that. And those are the 2 big things I would say. If you're having pain in your knees, fix both of those things up. If you're still having pain in your knees with squatting and you've got all that settled, give squatting to boxes a try. So a box squat, when you're actually sitting down on a box between every rep. I hope this Q&A was useful for you. Hit me up if you have any more questions. We can do this again. Let me know in the comments if you like the style video. Now I want you to remember, it's okay to be a beginner. We were all beginners once. You don't have to have your form perfect. If you have pain, stop what you're doing, figure out what's causing the pain. You can reach out to me anytime. We can talk through that. But beginners are beginners, and it's a-okay. You're gonna get better at the form the more you practice. All right, catch you on the next video. Remember to subscribe and like this video.